never promised you that.
No, I believe that. I was told that was what this meeting was all about. Accumulating my millions.
Okay. I think we'd probably better begin. I know there are at least a couple more people coming, but they can drift in as we go by. So this is, I think, a little bit of an occasion. It's the inaugural meeting of our Information Organization Research Group. And we have an agenda. It's, for those of you who are on D2L, it is in content under IORG, I believe. So you can find the agenda. Those of you who are here, it's on the paper over in the corner. Before we actually get to the formal agenda, I want to do a little bit with the first item of the agenda, which is looking at kind of where this came from, this idea of having an information organization research group, and how we've set it up at the moment. It's certainly something that's flexible and I think will grow with us. I hope so, anyway. There are several things that were the impetus for this group. One is, I think, fairly obvious, and that's that at SOAS we have three areas that we've defined as areas of very strong scholarship and teaching, and we did that when we were putting together our doctoral program, and it became clear at that time that information organization had become one of those three areas, the other two being information policy and information retrieval. And so we decided we wanted to promote research in this area as part of that strength, not just the curriculum. And then one of the ways to do that is by having a research group. Another reason is that we wanted to have visibility then, and we wanted to be able to have an umbrella for projects so they'd have a home. We looked at the Center for Information Policy Research, and it serves some of those needs. But we were taking a little bit different approach. I think we're maybe a little less energetic about organizing conferences and more interested in sitting and having discussions. And so I don't know if that's the difference between information organization people and information policy people, but that was one of our reasons. And the other thing is we wanted kind of an intellectual home where we can talk to each other. One of the things that I've had experience with is working somewhere where there's nobody else working in my area. And when I came to UWM, here was Hurley, and suddenly there was somebody I could talk to. I could go to the office that was then next door and we could bounce ideas off of each other. And so this is sort of a bigger version of that in one way. So that's partly what we're looking for. So then we needed a structure. And one of the structures for research groups comes out of the sciences, where basically you've got scholars and students who are doing research that's related to each other. They may be in a research group or in a lab. And I've had a little bit of experience with this because of my son, who's in computer graphics, and he's in a lab, which I always say the reason he went to Simon Fraser University is because the lab's called Groovy. But looking at that kind of model seemed to give us some possible ways of especially bringing faculty and students together to look at research. But then I also thought of the really important research group within our field, which is the classification research group. The classification research group had a common theme when they started, which I think was in the 40s, which was that they were basically rejecting the classification schemes of their day, and they wanted to do something about it. One of the interesting things about the CRG, the Classification Research Group, is that it was not just researchers who had jobs as research. It also included people like public librarians. And in fact, that's where a lot of the impetus came from. So as a professional field, I thought we can't just look at the science model. We need to also look at a model that's going to bring in the profession. And the CRG did a whole variety of different things. And especially when Hurley and Steve and Mickey Breitenstein and I talked about this, it was clear that we had a really diverse group of interests that we wanted to try and bring together in this group. So they had a variety of different publications. They developed some specialized classification schemes. They were the home for some grant-funded projects. And they actually did the second edition of Bliss's bibliographic classification, which is esoteric enough that I'm sure only a few of you tuned in know about it, but it did come out of the CRG. I just couldn't resist including the photo of 3 members of the CRG. This was in 1997, past the prime of the CRG, which doesn't exist anymore. But it had an enormous longevity. It was at that time 40 years old, I think we figured, didn't we? So the CRG was another kind of model that we could look at. So then we needed to think about, well, what was our mission? Because we were bringing in a lot of different eclectic kinds of things. And I looked for ideas or influences in relation to our mission. First of all, to the school, and I looked at those 3 I's that we have: information, international, and interdisciplinary. And so that was one factor, or well, 3 factors that I wanted to fit into our mission when I drafted it. I also looked all over the place at some fairly eclectic mission statements from research groups that I could find. And so you can see they came from everything from air quality to women's studies and synthetic chemistry to children's environment. And they brought some other ideas that then we put together into a mission statement. And the mission statement, for those of you online, is in the content section of your D2L site. And for the rest of you, it's on the back of the agenda. So basically, the first thing we were looking for was the basic idea of research, which was contributing to knowledge. We wanted to achieve scientific excellence, and one of the, and scientific here used very loosely. We're not necessarily looking only at what we're certainly not excluding the humanities. But one of the examples I looked at actually rolled the idea of an ethical element to that. And I think that's something that we'd want to maintain. Another area that came out of some of the examples and also out of some of our work as individuals was social responsibility, so that was another element in our mission. Cooperation, which of course is a long-standing librarian's way of going about things, and again fits very much with SOAS in terms of interinstitutional, interdisciplinary, and international efforts. And finally, dissemination. And again, when we look at dissemination, we want to make sure that it doesn't just go into the journals that are read by academics, but that it also goes into the information professional venues so that we have multiple audiences for what we do. And then finally, I wanted to mention, before we really get started here, the potential activities. Right now, it's very, very open. This discussion we thought we'd try and have about once a month, and the last item on our agenda is future discussions, so that we can set up times and ideas that we want to have there. Obviously, projects can be under the umbrella of the research group, so they might be research projects, but they could be other types of projects as well. But they would be related to information organization. And then we can sponsor different kinds of events. So if there's someone we want to bring in as a speaker, a visiting scholar, we can look at conferences like CIPR does. Workshops, I think especially as we look at the changes in cataloging rules, we may be interested in maybe co-sponsoring with our Professional Development Institute or something like that. Some workshops on those changes. So we can think of different kinds of events. And each of these then can be co-sponsored or sponsored by the Information Organization Research Group. So that's kind of a setting for what we're doing. This is our agenda, which you have a copy of. And I want to give the introduction first, but now I'd really like to go around and ask everybody to introduce themselves, including the people who are online. And I'll start. I think most of you know that I'm Hope Olson. If you don't, hello. Hello if you do. And maybe Cheryl, I'll let you go next.
Okay. I'm Cheryl Lashko. This is my second semester in SOAS. And I'm interested in information organization, specifically in archives. So that's why I'm here.
And Cheryl is also the assistant for the Information Organization Research Group and for the Information Organization Concentration that we'll talk about later. Really?
Hi, I'm Hurley Lee. I'm associate professor at SOIS. My area is information organization. So I teach courses in the information organization area.
And I'm Deep Mar Wolfram. I'm a professor here at the School of Information Studies. My research interests are varied, but they do overlap somewhat with information organization, particularly in indexing and how that applies to the IR environment.
Hi, my name is Lucio. This is my first semester. I'm interested in information visualization and to apply that on information organization.
Hi, my name is Dan, and I am. This is my second semester, and I guess I'm interested generally in information organization, kind of getting more involved in possibly cataloging classification.
And Dan has kindly offered to be the voice of those of you who are here remotely. So thank you, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Chihi. I'm interested in information organization. I work at the academic library and research library as a cataloger, but that experience influenced my present study, so I want to keep studying this area.
I am Steve Miller. I'm teaching academic staff and teach courses in information organization, metadata, information architecture, and cataloging. And I don't do formal research, but I'm a consumer of research and interested in contributing to research.
Dan, do we have any introductions from the people online?
I don't see any.
Maybe those of you who are online could introduce yourselves.
Did you want this is through D2L chat?
Yeah.
Okay. No, nobody's on chat right now.
Do we have the? This is. Are you in the IORG?
Organization.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. One moment, please.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right. Well, in the meantime, while Dan's finding the introduction, I can tell you a little bit about what's been happening at SOIS at this point in relation to information organization. The most dramatic news, I think, right now is that we have an information organization concentration that needs nothing yet except the signature of the provost, which I think will be forthcoming very quickly. And for that, I want to especially thank Steve for putting the proposal together. It was so successful that I went to the meetings, and before I even got there, they had passed it without any questions. So that was my favorite meeting of last week, and it was also, I think, a real tribute to the clarity of the proposal. With that concentration, it's going to be possible for students to take, besides the required course, 9 credits of electives, I believe, in information organization. So we'll post that on the D2L site as well, so that you can see exactly what's involved. What the result will be is that a student's transcript will indicate that they graduated with an MLIS with a concentration in information organization. So it'll actually be stated formally on the transcript. So that's a nice thing to be able to put on your resume when you're looking for jobs in that area, or on your application when you're applying for a doctoral program. Okay, so are we in?
We are in. Jihi was nice enough to log me in under her name because I must not have the link. But we have one from Dave Bloom. He says, "Hi, I'm in my second semester. I'm in the coordinated degree program with the English department and interested in cataloging, specifically in an academic environment."
Nice to have you with us, Dave.
We also have one from Richard Smelia. Yep. And he says most of my work has to do with instantiation, which classes metadata and classification, but I'm also doing a lot of work with domain analysis now, as well as semiotics and phenomenology.
Richard is currently at Long Island University, but we're hoping to develop a closer link with him in the near future, so he has an interest in what we're doing.
And then we have one from Nikki Breitenstein. Which says, main interests have been in information organization, visual information, and when I went to library school, I got the archives certificate and did some graduate work in that area before becoming a teacher. And then one just came in, Lori Hart, web and medical librarian, graduate student, interested in information pertaining to search engines.
Well, welcome to everybody who's online. Carly, would you tell us a little bit about the conference?
Sorry, I can't remember that much, but the conference, we do have an official website, and I don't think we have updated the information there, but we have selected, the conference will be held here in Milwaukee in May 22nd and 23rd at the Milwaukee Public Library, the Central Branch. We have 3 keynote speakers, one from Canada, one from Brazil, and one from the United States. And we have selected, we had a call for papers, and we have gone through all the selection process, have selected 8 papers for presentation. And so besides those presentations, we also have a panel discussion at the end of the conference that will be in the afternoon of the second day. It will be moderated by Professor Olson, and Steve will be another panelist. The third panelist will be Karen Coyle. And she's now a digital library consultant, I believe, and she works out of California. So she's very well known in metadata, and we hope that will be a very good panel discussion as well. And the website, actually, I think it's very easy to get to through the main website of SOIS.
Right, you just look for the IO Ethics Conference.
Right.
I can't remember if it says IO Ethics or
Ethics. I don't remember. And the registration information will be coming up very soon. Probably sometime this week it will be up.
Another event that we're going to be somewhat involved in is at next fall's ACES conference. There will be the workshop for the Special Interest Group in Classification Research. And that will have certain involvement from here. I'll be chairing that conference. Mickey is on the on the conference program committee, and the call for that should be coming out very soon. So watch for that. Are there any other news bits? Okay, then what I'd like to do is take a few minutes for us to share projects that are already ongoing, and that includes anybody who's got either a project that has already started or a project that's a twinkle in the eye. I think those are worth mentioning as well, because this is an opportunity for us to find out what else is going on in the school, and then there may be things where people will want to become involved in the projects that are there. So, I know there are projects around the table. Who would like to go first? Do I get it over with?
G and I, also with another fellow student, Jamie Ball, have been involved in doing a project. And do you want to introduce it, Chad?
Okay. But you have to help me.
Okay, that's fine. We've been doing a project to compare subject headings in 3 different languages, and Jihee has been looking into Korean subject headings from the Korean National Library, and I've been working with Spanish subject headings from the Biblioteca Nacional de España, which is the Spanish National Library, and kind of comparing the records from 30 books that were originally published in English, and looking to kind of see how the United States, how Library of Congress subject headings differ from the subject headings in those other languages.
So we are focused on the original works and these translated works. So we compared these subject heading each other. So we want to compare how similar these subject heading are. So our belief is if the work is same, even though the language is different, we think the subject heading should be similar or identical. So, but now we are working on, so the Professor Hurley helped us a lot, so probably we can produce good results soon.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of good help from the professors in our department to kind of figure. We have information, but we're still putting it together.
I think it's really exciting that, I mean, this is not for a class, right?
Right.
This is just something that you're doing on the side for fun. And I think that's really terrific. Is there anything coming through on the chat about the project?
No.
Somebody else want to talk about?
Oh, we actually just got some from Mickey Breitenstein. I'm involved in the early stages of cataloging in 2 museum libraries in Long Beach, California, where I live. The Museum of Latin American Art and the not yet open Museum of Polynesian Art. I've had a few meetings and we are hoping to make decisions about how to best develop their small but valuable resources for some limited access and maybe to get some grant funding.
Great. You look like you want to talk about it.
Sure, I could. Well, Hope and I have been involved with the project over the last year and a half or so related to inter-index or consistency and how that also applies in the tagging environments. Tagging has become a very popular pastime, I think, and it's associated with Web 2.0 and allowing more interactivity with websites. And so what we were looking at was regularities that exist in tagging. And there have been a few products that have resulted from that project. And there are still a few more phases of that project that we could undertake. We're also just in the initial discussion stages of what probably will end up being a fairly large project looking at health information, and specifically women's health information needs and the vocabulary that they use.
And that project also has Jen and Roma Harris from the University of Western Ontario.
Richard Similia says, I just got a group together to write a meta-analysis of domain analysis. We're comparing all the studies we can find.
Really?
I thought you can continue because after Dima, because he just described what project that you two work together.
Well, yeah, I can do that if you want. A couple other projects. One is another cooperative project looking at, it's a little bit more of a retrieval project, but it uses information organization, and what we're looking at is whether or not hierarchies could be used to help navigate in a more effective way in some instances than direct searching. And Simon Moo is one of the team members on that, and he and one of our doctoral students have been building an interface that would have a solid hierarchy on it. And Iris is a part of that team as well, and she will be doing the evaluation section, and we decided to use health information for it. So Alex Dimitrov will be part of that project as well. And we've actually put in a grant with the National Institutes of Health to see if we can get that funding to go forward with that. That would be sort of a quasi-experimental approach. And the other one that I'm kind of in the middle of, it's quieted down for the moment, is a comparison of the Dewey classification with the bookstore classification, which is called BISAC. Because some libraries have decided to use the bookstore classification instead of Dewey. And the question that I want to address, and I'm working with Megan Gurney, who's one of our recent grads on that, is there a significant enough difference, and would it be to users' advantage to use the BISAC? And I think our preliminary findings are that the differences actually are not significant. But that's eyeballing it, not looking at anything concrete. So now I'll let you talk.
Okay, I'm currently focusing on a very long-term research project. I think it probably will last the rest of my career. I hope so. And in 2006, I got the opportunity to go to China and study traditional Chinese bibliography and the traditional Chinese bibliographic classification. Very excitingly, my first journal article was just published last week in Library Quarterly, and because of that, it pushed this project up a little bit because Library Quarterly would not allow me to add Chinese characters very easily. So I decided not to do it in the journal itself, but do it on the website. And this website is just part of this research project. As I said, this is a long-term research project, so I would hope that this will provide a lot of information about my project, and will also help organize a lot of information I have collected and I will be collecting in the future. And it's very difficult to find such information because Chinese classification, Chinese bibliography is not something that has been researched or written about in LIS in English. And a lot of the resources are actually in Chinese, so it will provide both materials in both Chinese and English. And here you go, if you go to the project achievement sections, you can see the publications that come out of this project. And then there are other areas that will provide information collected for the project.
I don't think we need the PowerPoint.
We have just do one more, actually two more. Richard Smelia also says that he is working on, he's doing a collaboration. He says he's working on a lot more projects, but he's going to do a collaboration in what's called citation chasing to enhance subject retrieval. And then Dave Bloom says that he's in the hypothetical stage right now, but he's had some conversations with some professors about looking into the concept of author and authorship and how its evolution might be reflected in RDA standards. He's looking to do possibly a content analysis of the draft documentation on the RDA website. And he says, although it may be subject to change, his project, he's looking forward to looking into it.
Anybody else want to comment?
I could mention that in conjunction with my two sections of information architecture this semester, we're working on the redesign of the SOAS website, helping to contribute to that from the way it's organized. And part of what I'm hoping we'll do is develop the beginnings of a thesaurus for SOAS, which may not have any practical application, but we might start with faculty research and curriculum as a basis for some thesaurus development.
Okay, anybody else? All right, well, I think then we get to the most important part of the discussion, and that's some ideas for where the IORG might be going. What kinds of, in terms of research, we might think not only about projects, but even starting at what kinds of problems we want to research. We can look at maybe speakers we might want to bring in or some other kind of events, or any kind of project that we want to go forward. And I know just in the discussions that Hurley and Steve and Mickey and I have had, some things have come up and we can look at other options. So, who has an idea? I know Mickey has one. That relates to 511. Are we coming in?
I'm not seeing anything from.
Oh, okay.
You're good.
Other thoughts? We're going to be very short on ideas here.
The other day we just talked about having some students from Taiwan to do internship at the libraries here, specifically in the area of information organization. And so they probably would like to learn things related, like say, creating metadata for Chinese materials in Golda-Meir Library that have not been able to be cataloged here because no one has the language expertise. But then here, because we are strong in I/O, we can bring those people who know the language, and then they can come here and learn how to do I/O related things to organize these materials.
And that was going to be at the end of the summer, right?
If it happens.
If they get the grant, they'd be coming at the end of the summer.
Right.
So we might be able to plan some informal connections.
Right. But that's related, actually, I think, because Steve and Bobby, who's adjunct for the school in information organization, because of their expertise, they have been offering not workshops, how do you call those? Continuing ed workshops?
Yeah.
Workshops? Yes, I think all these can be connected. So it will be a more practical, practical arm of IORG, but that will actually feed our research ideas, I think. I hope, somehow.
Well, I think regularly we've had, the workshops that we have through the Professional Development Institute in IO have always been very popular, I think. And so that kind of workshop, is certainly something that we'd want to continue to look at.
Oh, here we go. He says, regarding 7-Eleven, we are hoping to develop really constructive collaboration with 7-Eleven so that instructors who are quite skilled in one aspect will share their skills and good assignments with others. It seems that a few of us are really best at all parts of the big field of cataloging and classification.
Yeah, one of the things we've found is that because 7-Eleven, which is a cataloging course, is a very applied course, then, come on in. It's a very applied course that it's also a course which often we have professional catalogers teaching instead of permanent staff after school. And so that means a lot of different people end up teaching it. So Mickey's actually taken on the task of coordinating all of that. And it's really interesting because just the discussion has gone way beyond just coordinating it. It's gone into, what's the best way to teach and all kinds of really fruitful discussions, I think. So that's going to be very interesting. The other thing, actually, Mickey, that I remember you bringing up was the idea of writing a textbook for 511. Now, whether or not we could actually do that is another question. But I think that there has sometimes been some dissatisfaction with the texts that we've used in 511. And so Mickey raised that when we talked, I think it was last summer, when we had a sort of mini retreat for the IO faculty. So.
Mickey says that she's laughing because we really should write a textbook. And Elsa says that she likes the idea of adding practicing librarians and collaborating the practice and skills.
Mm-hmm. maybe we can introduce our doctoral student who's just come in the room. And Lou, maybe would you just introduce yourself briefly? And actually, you could talk about the research idea that you've been working on.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm the PhD student here, and I'm sorry for late for this meeting. About the information organization, I think because I'm now taking the doctor seminar for information organization, so do I talk about research, the hierarchy one?
We already talked about the hierarchical one, actually, but I was thinking of the one that you're working on individually.
Okay. You mean the which one?
Your own.
My own. Okay. Now for the doc seminar, this we are going to talk about the relationships in this week, like, and that's the thing more about, like, to build the relationship between different terms and vocabularies to build the thesaurus. Because for people, we usually use the nature language, which is a very loose structure, but there are mainly two problems with the nature language. One is the, like, multi-referent. That is, one term can have different meanings. One term can refer to different things in different contexts. And the other major problem is the synonyms. That's the different terms can have the same meaning. So to solve this kind of problem, we need to have the relationships. For the multi-referent, the major solution is, like, to give more words, like qualifier. This is one of the way to do that. But the main idea is to give more words, give more description, to give a context, and then you can know in that context this word refer to what kind of thing. For the other one, the synonyms one, this is more like to hurt the recall thing in retrieval, and usually people can build the different kind of relation, like equivalent relation or hierarchy relation, to include not only the term itself but also other related terms to enhance the recall. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm missing one thing is for the multiple referent. The problem is it usually will hurt the precision because it may include something you don't want because of the multi-referent. That's what I'm going to further investigate for this week.
And the other thing I was thinking about was your idea of pulling vocabulary out of JASIS.
Okay. Oh, you mean that one?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the really original one.
I don't know which one. I have several ones.
I have too many projects.
Oh, that one is also a very interesting project, which, yeah, like you said, is more original. What I'm thinking about first is, the terms have their meaning, and usually we can say some terms, like subject terms, they are they contains a rich subject meaning. In that case, if we can collect all the subject terms as a set, we probably can say this kind of set is able to represent a certain kind of subject or topic. And what I'm planning to do is I want to collect such a set to represent our field, like let's say information science. To do that, I first can pick up some journals. For each journal, like JCs, they do have the subject terms, although they didn't provide in the journal publication, but they do have this. So if you search on EBSCO, and you can get this kind of terms. What I did, I extracted all the subject terms from JCs from 2001 to 2001 to 2007. Total what I included totally is 1,000 journal articles, and I come up with keywords like more than 5,000 keywords and subject terms. And what I did is to go through this list to rank by the frequency the terms occurs. I will probably think that if the term occurs very frequently, it seems more people will focus on this topic, this kind of things, and this topic can be a hot topic within our field. From my result, the top one subject terms is information science, which occurs 260 times. And the second one is like information retrieval. Yeah, and the following one. And then I choose what the terms occurs more than 3 times. It's a kind of arbitrary thing, but you need to have a cutoff to get more topic-centered instead of more noise. It's a trade-off. So I try terms occurs more than 3 times. And then what I did is manually go through the terms. After the terms occurs more than 3 times, totally maybe 300 terms actually. So you can see it's a long tail. Most of the terms only occur once. Within the total 5,000 terms, only 300 terms occur more than 3 times. So I manually go through the terms and say to fill some terms which is too generic. Like some will say, we'll use the statistic method as their subject term. This term is too broad. It's not so subject oriented, and then I come up with more like high quality subject terms, and I use this kind of set to represent the subject. Yeah. And next step I'm going to do is to search these terms and to say to collect orders web pages which is oriented information science field, and I want to know how the web pages distributed among the sites, and and to maybe I can investigate more. Yeah, that's I'm going to do next.
I was just thinking as you were talking about this, I mean, this project that you're describing isn't for a course. It's just something you're doing, right?
Actually,
or are you going to use it?
It is related to a course project. Yeah. But actually, what I did is, what I'm going to do is more than a course project,
Right.
maybe. Yeah.
And I'm thinking in terms of the research group, it might be a nice home for these projects that people are doing that aren't in a course, so that there'd be a place that people could come and talk about them. Does that sound like it would be a useful sort of thing? Other ideas about what we should be doing now that we've got this organization and a little bit of a budget, by the way, that the dean kindly gave us. Are there speakers that we'd want to be bringing in? Are there people you'd want to hear?
Oh, one thing is that we talked a little bit about this before. Our school has an annual, how do you call it, lecture series, the Ted Seymour lecture series. And in the recent years, I don't know for how many years, all speakers have been in information policy. So maybe next year, this year the speaker has already been decided. So maybe we can work on getting a speaker in I/O for the next year.
That's an excellent idea. So I think there are a few ways to go about that. I mean, one is as people go to conferences to listen to the speakers, because you want someone who not only has interesting ideas but is interesting to listen to. But also just to look at, articles that you read that you think are interesting, and maybe if you haven't heard that person speak, maybe, someone else has. And so collectively we could find someone who would be very interesting. A little bit controversial is good for that. So, because the Ted Seymour lecture is one that we try to bring in a lot of practicing librarians for the audience, and so it's one that we also usually try to make it at least a little bit entertaining. I don't know if RDA is, it's very controversial within the information organization area. I don't know if it is elsewhere.
Try to make it interesting to people who aren't in our area.
But I mean, it's a big issue. The idea that we actually had an AACR3 draft that got dropped because of popular demand and replaced with another model is quite startling when you think about it. Anything else? I think one thing that would be useful in the future, maybe we can send out by email a request for items to be discussed in a little more depth on the agenda, so that, for example, if you came to a really key point in what you're working on where you wanted to share something with us, or you came to a blockage, that we could actually discuss it in a little more detail. Anybody else?
Do you have any plans for research-oriented seminars? Not directly related to a particular course, but I don't know whether it's an ongoing or just maybe you can do it once a year or once a semester, or just whenever we like to have it.
So a seminar in the sense of
I don't know, just a more research oriented instead of just talking about.
You mean instead of the discussion kind of format we're having today?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an excellent idea. I think we could, choose a topic and discuss it more broadly and not necessarily in relation to a project. Is that what you were thinking?
Could be. Or because now this year is the first year we have our PhD program, but I think at least once a year we will offer the IO seminar, right, for doctoral
The
students.
doctoral, yeah.
So maybe it can be held in conjunction with that, so it will be a project oriented or whatever seminar.
Right. I think it would be interesting to develop something like that. I mean, Lou, you're in the doctoral seminar. I think we could take one of our topics and turn it into something broader.
Mickey asks, she wonders how many of the new doctoral students are interested in information organization topics as their concentration.
Well, this is the first year of our doctoral program, and of the 7 students in the program, 3 are taking the doctoral seminar in IO. And I think, we'll either major or minor in it. I think mostly we'll major in it. But I think in the next class, we just did the admissions and offers are going out, so I don't know who's accepted and
Right.
so on and so forth. But there were very, very few applicants who had IO as their primary interest. So actually one thing that would be really useful would be to get ideas on how to market that, because I think we need to do some more work on publicizing the IO aspect of the degree. And certainly, having a research group, if we can pull it together and have more in-depth discussion than we can have today, obviously, when we're just starting. I think that would be something that would attract doctoral students.
One thing I'm thinking is, since SOIS have the student research day every year, right?
Yes.
And we have initiated the IO research group. What kind of role will we play in that research day event? Or
I don't think the IORG would play a formal role in it. I mean, SIPR doesn't either, but I think we could certainly encourage students who are doing IO research to present on that day, because that raises, again, the visibility. And it's a really nice opportunity for students because you're guaranteed a friendly audience. So it's a nice place to present for the first time, or if you haven't done a lot of presenting, or if just the research is something new for you. It's a really good opportunity. And besides that, then if you publish it, you actually get a monetary reward. I think it's $300 or something like that. Is that right, Dan? You're on that?
I believe it is $300.
Yeah. I don't know, do you have any more insights into, I think is the best way just to encourage students?
Well, this is a good, Ricky has a good comment. She says, I wonder if it might be helpful to speak with new students, even in an informal way, about the IO concentration, things like that. And, I think just an informal conversation, especially with people who might be looking into doing research, might be a good way just to kind of, say that this group is out there and willing to support people, especially in kind of a bouncing ideas off of each other type manner. But I wonder if Mickey isn't talking about more like the faculty speaking with new students. Not quite sure.
I'm not reading Mickey's mind, but my reaction to that is, I think both faculty and fellow students would be really useful because, sometimes we get wrapped up in our own convoluted research projects, and I think it would be nice to have a balanced view, find out what students would be interested in.
Yeah, that's true.
There is always a presentation about the concentration at the MLIS orientation. But, I mean, certainly individual contact is always the most effective way to encourage people to do that kind of thing. At the orientation, usually faculty and the students who have indicated that they're interested in a topic will be placed together. You remember the name tags if you're at orientation. And so we've often, been able to talk to students there. But I think a lot of students don't necessarily indicate information organization when they first apply because they don't always know what it is.
Right.
And I know when I went to library school, I started out, I was going to become a systems librarian. And I think it took about a month before I realized that that was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do I.O. It was my charismatic cataloging professor who did that. But, so I think sometimes people have to kind of get into it before they know that. So that orientation isn't necessarily the most effective place, although we'd certainly want to keep doing that. But I'm trying to think what other kind of opportunities.
Our idea is just to open some conversations about topics, methods, experiences, just an over coffee kind of conversation anytime the student wants to initiate that.
Do we have a website for IORG? Not in the detail. Do we have a website?
There's a draft one for IORG. That when was it? Was it in the fall? We spent a lot of time looking at logos. Rebecca kept designing them for us, and so I think we finally came up with one that we were happy with. And so that should be up pretty soon. But I think it's probably also going to depend on the restructuring of the website, the SOAS website. But we can certainly put things there.
I think that is good idea because in my case, when international students apply to PhD program, they usually get information from their
Right.
website. But detail is a good source, but the prospective students cannot use the detail. So we need to promote our research group to everyone by opening our source. So like if faculty members introduce their research or the students also post their idea about IO by using the board or something like that. So just make that website like open source or something like that. Like just to make it we can make it people can use it as a discussion. So
I think that's a great idea. I noticed Steve's writing it down, so I think we've got a really good likelihood that something like that will happen.
And I also working on I'm interested in IO research group, but I'm working on the information retrieval research group to make their website. So, but they said they will gather or references about the information retrieval, so they will storage that database on the website, and they will share that information together. So maybe we can do we can also use MySQL, which is the database management system, so we can share or just reference. It's not a specific disease, or of course I think it could occur the issue of copyright, but if we can deal with that issue, we share all kind of references from about IO.
So is it like a big bibliography that they're building?
Yeah.
So we'd want to look and see what's already available, and then see if we could build on it, possibly. That actually sounds like a really good project for a class.
Lou is very good at building web-based database. And he belongs to this group too. So.
Yes.
Yeah, I can contribute to that. I think Chili also has experience with the online web service something. Database. It's like if we can use the web like a platform to encourage more discussion. Yeah, that's the purpose. And attach with some resources.
Should that be part of the D2L site and that will require a password, or should that be part of the public website?
I think we can make the website have a login system. Just we can open.
Just make it part of the public website.
If we decide to, people have to log in our website, we can do that. But if we think it's unnecessary, we don't need to. But as a student, in my case, at first, information organization is only for classification and catalog. I think my thought is really too short, not broad. So usually I browse the bibliography of information organization. Even though I cannot read all entire articles, each article, but by browsing the bibliography, it is really helpful to broaden my level of information of the organization. So to provide the bibliography about our area, like could help the student who like me.
I'm trying to remember, maybe if Richard's still there, he'll be able to help us. What happened with the bibliography that used to be done for knowledge organization? I know we were having difficulty getting someone to continue that bibliography. But certainly retrospectively, that would have a lot of material in it. That, then we wouldn't have to do that. And I don't know if that's also been put into the digitization of the journal or not. Let's see. Another way that we can maybe market in terms of recruiting students is, they have to know that there's a website there before, that can be effective. But using listservs is another possibility. And often in recruiting MLIS students in particular, the best assistance actually comes from librarians, because students who are thinking of coming to a program like this will often talk to someone that they know. And so the listservs that go out to professionals, I think, are really good. It's at 2 steps removed, kind of, but it's a way to get that information out there. One of the things that we're kind of working on is to ascertain just how unique we are as a program in terms of the number of permanent faculty we have teaching, the number of courses that we can offer in the area of IO, the kind of research that's going on here, the research productivity. And we know that we're going to come out fairly close to the top, if not at the top, in some of those. And obviously, counting isn't the only way to tell, the quality of something. But it gives you some idea amongst the, 57 schools with accredited programs?
I think it's fewer than that.
Anyway, it's something like, it's certainly no more than that. To be able to say that we're one of the top ones, I think is also a nice marketing tool.
Richard responded to you. He said it's still being compiled. He just received the next segment. It will get posted on ISKO's website, but it's not in the journal any longer. But he said people are needed to compile it. Also, book reviewers are needed. Both are good jobs for doctoral students.
Very nice. Thank you, Richard. Well, and also, knowledge organization is certainly a good venue to consider when you're going to publish something. So. But I believe Richard has full pages for a while.
I'm sure he'll respond to you.
Anything else? Okay, the last agenda item I put, and this doesn't mean we can't go back if something comes up, but the last agenda item was about future meetings. We had talked originally about having a meeting of this group about once a month. I know when Cheryl mentioned it to the the on-site cataloging class, there was a desire to have it in the evenings, right? So we might want to, but that's an evening class, so obviously the people in that class prefer evenings. We might want to alternate or something. We might want to try a different format, some kind of a more of a seminar type format where we focus more on the topic and maybe on actual projects. So, what do others think about any of those?
It'd be hard to do it at night because that's when we have class.
Right.
So, evenings.
I mean, I don't know if we could do it between, like 4 o'clock. Classes usually start at 5:30, I think.
Yeah, I have class every night of the week except Mondays.
So I don't know if alternating, afternoons.
That might not be a bad idea.
So that people can still participate if they want. Just come every other time if that's.
Yeah. It's not a bad idea.
And do we want to just do an hour? I mean, I just booked the room for 2 hours. We don't have to talk until 3 o'clock. But maybe, like, if we tried to do it in between, that might be a nice compromise. And what time are afternoon classes done?
4?
4:10.
Yeah, 4:10.
And evening classes usually start at 5:30, don't they? So we could do something like 4:20 to 5:20 or something peculiar like that.
Just one thing, the student organization always has Monday meetings at 4:15.
So we wouldn't want to do it on Mondays.
Yeah, okay. Probably not.
Well, I think one of the things we'd want to do is book this room because, among other things, it's just the easiest to organize. We're exploring the idea of more sophisticated technology to bring in our online colleagues.
There's some sentiment about that right here. People are asking, could meetings be online with camera and with video?
Yeah, and right now we don't have the facility to do that, but we are discussing it. So chat is certainly not
Ideal.
cutting edge.
Especially with me reading it off.
I think you're doing a very good job.
Thank you. I don't know if the people online would agree with you, but
So anyway, I mean, if we book this room, then it obviously won't conflict with the student org because you usually meet in here, don't you? And, it wouldn't conflict with any classes that would be held in here, so. And I think those times are fairly standard now. Any other thoughts about the meeting? Are there any topics that come to mind right away, or?
just to clarify, Mickey said that she wanted that we could show the chat, so the chat could be, like up on the screen or something. And she says she has a camera too, so she could video in.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about videoing in, and I think the problem is with multiple streams.
Yeah.
But maybe we could accommodate that. Can we do that, Milton? Can we get software that would bring in multiple streams of video?
I'm not really sure.
So we could
documenting it is a whole different, another ballgame.
Right.
Saving it, you can go third party, but that can be really expensive.
Right.
Off the line would be a Citrix conference room, which that's a big budget by itself.
Well, we don't have to go top of the line probably, but we should be able to go a step up from where we are. So I think that's the kind of thing we'll have to do
But
some more back
documenting
up.
that could be an issue.
And actually that brings up another question. I mean, do we want to document these meetings in recorded form? Cheryl's taking minutes. It struck us, and when we talked to a few other people, that people aren't going to want to go back and watch a podcast of a bunch of people sitting around discussing, but they might rather just have minutes. So, right now we can have the option and see what we do. So we might not have to worry about recording it. What do you think?
There's a lot of discussion about projected chat and how that might be nice if we can somehow project the online chat up on the screen so that everyone can kind of see what's going on, so that people can have their own voice. And I mean, not people don't necessarily mind not having video, which is okay. I think that for every meeting, I mean, you're right. People probably aren't going to sit there and watch us discuss. So.
Yeah, I mean, basically the video going out is nice, especially if we have anything visual or demos of something.
Right.
But just a bunch of us talking is not real scintillating. Video, although it makes it more interesting for Milton than just one person talking, because it gives you something to do.
Maybe I could summarize all of you guys in your comments instead of summarizing them to you guys.
Would it be possible to just open the D2L site here on the screen, have the chat? Is that the kind of thing there?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what they're talking about.
Well, that's easy enough to do. Other suggestions? All right, I think what I'll do is, we have the emails of the people who came in on chat, and we've got the other list, and I think what I'll do is see if I can find a time that we can book that would be in that in-between time slot. Actually, before one of the IO classes would be good, wouldn't it? Like before 7-Eleven or something like that. When people are going to be on people interested in this group would be on campus anyway. And then once I can find a time, we can send out a message to see what people would actually like to put on the agenda. How does that? Are there any other suggestions, practical ones, Bob? Okay. Anything else before we close? Nobody's happening on that. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think it's a good beginning, and I think we've got a lot of good ideas, and we'll see where we can go with it.